Hello everybody, this is TipTop MTG here today with another Magic the Gathering video. In today's video, we are going to be taking a look at a bunch of spoilers for Time Spiral Remastered. Now really quickly, if you don't know, Time Spiral Remastered is Magic's first paper remastered set, which essentially means they're taking the Time Spiral block, which is an older set, and they are kind of combining it into one set for a draftable experience. And so the three sets they're combining are Time Spiral, Planar Chaos, and Future Sight. And each of them were supposed to be a very complex and very different type of Magic set compared to a lot of what we got before that and what we got after it even, including things like new frames. It was originally supposed to introduce Planeswalkers, and it was kind of supposed to be a look at alternate realities of Magic or the future of Magic. All sorts of weird things, and that's where you get some of those off-color cards. For instance, a white counterspell is in those. And so what they're doing is they're combining them into one set. Now, in the original set, there was a slot in the booster for a future shifted card, which was essentially a special sheet of exclusive cards, and it would only appear in that slot. And so what they did is they kind of brought that back, but instead of having it be the same cards, instead what they're doing is they are going to be cards from at any time in Magic, but in an old frame. So in the original Magic the Gathering frame, the big difference is they're not cards that have ever been printed in that frame, and they are not part of Time Spiral or Planar Chaos or Future Sight. So what we're doing is just looking at those, because the rest of them are 100% reprints from within three sets. So if you want to know what's in the set, go look at those three sets, and that's pretty much what's in the set. Of course, they are condensing it down to 289 cards, so some cards are being cut. And if you want, I will make a video after Time Spiral Remastered comes out talking specifically about the most impactful cards or most expensive cards that were left out. But that's not the time. Now is not the time for that. I don't think you want to hear about every common that's actually a reprint from one of three sets. So we're just going to talk about these new cards. Not new, they are also reprints, but they are from anywhere in Magic's history. So let's just talk about those. It's been rambling for a while. First off, we have Sigil of the Empty Throne. This was last reprinted in Commander 2018, and it's a 35-cent card. Now, if you guys didn't see my video yesterday, a lot of what they're doing are cheap cards. So don't expect these to be expensive cards, but they are played cards, and I think that is a really great distinction. Some of the most played cards in Magic are some of the cheapest because, well, they are that important to whatever format they're in that Wizards reprints them a lot. So, for instance, Sol Ring is really dropping in price as they print it more and more and more. And so I think it makes a lot of sense. These are not meant to be necessarily a collectible item in the sense of, using it for monetary value, but it's meant to be kind of a novel thing for people who like this frame. You can put it on cards that people actually use. So for instance, Sigil of the Empty Throne is really awesome in an enchantment deck, as you create a 4/4 every time a creature or every time an enchantment enters the battlefield. This one is a little bit more niche than some of the other ones. For instance, Swords to Plowshare? No, that's not what I meant to say. Path to Exile, or Banishing Light see a little bit more play than this specifically, but it is still one of those. It's not a very niche or unplayed cards. I don't think I've seen a single one of these that has been an unplayed card, but maybe there will be today. So next we have Stonehorn Dignitary. It's a 4-cost white creature, Rhino Soldier, and when it enters the battlefield, target opponent skips their next combat phase. It's a very unique effect. Of course, it's not an expensive card, and this is probably one of the least played cards I've seen, but it is definitely unique in what it does, and so I think for that reason, it definitely is interesting to see it in this frame. Next, we have Flicker Wisp. This was last reprinted in Kaldheim Commander, so, a whole, 2 weeks ago? But yeah, it's a 25-cent card. This one, is a very awesome creature that flickers things. And it is, known to combo with things and lots of craziness. It sees a lot of play in Commander, and most of these cards, I would say, are Commander cards. Sigil of the Empty Throne is an example of one of those, and so is this one. Next, we have Palace Jailer, another one of the more obscure cards, at least from my, knowing of it, but it's a 4-cost white creature, human soldier, 2/2, and when it enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch, and when it enters the battlefield, exile target creature an opponent controls until an opponent controls or becomes the Monarch. So it's like a weird creature exile effect. It's actually going for $1.50, and it definitely has an interesting effect on it because it doesn't care if it leaves the battlefield. It just cares about when you lose the Monarch, and once you lose the Monarch, that creature comes back and never comes back. It's an interesting card. Again, this one's a little bit more niche than we've seen before, but I definitely like it. Next, we have Lingering Souls. It's a 3-cost white sorcery. It creates tokens and it has flashback. Very interesting in a weird kind of way, where the flashback is like a different color, and it has the graveyard symbol, which symbolizes cards that do things in your graveyard. Either way, it was last reprinted in Mystery Booster, and again, it's not an expensive card, but it is probably, again, the most niche card. Yesterday, I don't think there was a single niche card or a card that is very specific to a type of deck, but we're really starting to see those now, and I wonder if they just kind of started them off that way, or if these are just a few of the exceptions. Next, we have Mirror Entity. This one is a classic in Commander. It is a 3-cost 1/1 with Changeling, but you can pay X and give all your creatures base power and toughness XX, and they gain all creature types. So that's really awesome for combo-y decks. It's just a good mana dump. It was last reprinted in Mystery Booster, and it's going for about $1, so it's actually on some of the more expensive sides of these. But yeah, I think that it is a very fun card, and one that's nice to see another reprint. But you'll notice a lot of these cards have been reprinted within the past year, of course, because the cards that see the most play should probably be reprinted the most, meaning, you know, they're doing it for that reason. And I think that's a really good mentality. I'm sure people who like collect things monetarily aren't gonna really like this, and you know, Time Spiral Remastered is an expensive set, so maybe I would have liked more value, but I really don't see this as a source of, you know, expensive cards. Next, we have Fibblethip the Lost. He's a 2-cost. He draws cards when the ETBs, and if he ETBs from your library, you get 2 cards. So he doesn't really see much play, like, at all, other than maybe being an interesting flicker target to draw cards. But yeah, he was last reprinted in Mystery Booster. I don't really have much else to say. We just transitioned from the white to the blue spoilers. So yeah, let's jump into the next one. Next, we have Talryn Sky Summoner, who was last reprinted in Jumpstart, and basically he's a instant and sorcery payoff. I wouldn't necessarily say he's a very popular card, but he is one that definitely fits an archetype, and if you pull this and you have an instant and sorcery deck, you could definitely throw it in there and not feel too bad. Next, we have Mole Drifter. This one is one of those more iconic cards. It is a 5-cost blue 2/2, but it has Evoke for 3, so you can have it enter the battlefield and then sacrifice it immediately if you just pay 3. And when it enters the battlefield, draw 2 cards. So it's an exclusively better, like, Divination, because it can be that creature. It's often known for being flickered or bought back from the graveyard or any of that. Of course, it was just reprinted in Kaldheim Commander, so again, it's not a card that necessarily needs a reprint, but it's one that sees a lot of play, and so it's good to see the card get reprinted in this fancy style. Or I guess not fancy? I don't know. It's kind of going back in time. Next, we have Ninja of the Deep Hours. This one is a ninja that's going to care about whenever it deals the combat damage to a player, you may draw a card and it can ninjutsu out. This is probably a card, I think this is the first card that I've never heard of before this, and I know it has seen a little bit of play, but I just really haven't seen it before this. So this is the first card that I would really say is a little bit more obscure, but maybe that's just me. I obviously don't know all, 25,000 cards in Magic. Next, we have Paradoxical Outcome. This is the interesting card in Pioneer, if I'm not mistaken, or at least some format, where there's a lot of combo decks that use this card, and so that's really awesome. Again, picking cards that see play, especially not even just outside, Commander. In my opinion, cosmetic cards that are built for Commander work the best, because I feel like Commander decks are the most likely to be blinged out, especially because they're, Commander isn't about chasing the meta, so you're much more likely to keep a deck versus something like Pioneer, Modern, Standard. Any of those, you're going to be needing to change out your deck pretty often in order to keep up, especially with the push power level that we're seeing in a lot of sets. And so it's really nice to see... it's nice to see them in Commander, but a lot of the time I feel like Wizards knows that, and so we don't see it for other formats. And this is actually the first time this card is being reprinted, so I think that's pretty cool. Next, we have Laboratory Maniac, one of the more expensive ones, sitting at about $2.50. These, by the way, prices are all in USD and as of Card Kingdom's prices, so you can probably find these for a little bit cheaper if you're looking to buy them. Yeah, he is an alternate win con. He's very unique in his what he does. Not necessarily that there aren't other cards. We have Jace from War of the Spark and Thassa's Oracle, but he is unique in the fact that, it kind of changes how you play the game. And so if you're going to build a deck like this, he is necessary. Not as much anymore, but, you need an effect like this. So a lot of combo decks will run it, and yeah. Next we have Remand, another one of the more expensive ones. It's a $3 instant, and it's a counter spell that puts the spell back into their hand, but then you get to draw cards, so you're not technically losing a card, and you're kind of just delaying the spell. I'm not a huge fan of this kind of effect, but I know a lot of people play this in like Commander, and it hasn't seen a reprint since Modern Masters 2015. So this is one where I'd say it's a little bit less on how much it's played and a card that needed a reprint, so I like it. Next, we have True Name Nemesis, probably the most expensive one today, going in at about $6. It ended up being really good in either Vintage or Legacy or both, and it was originally supposed to be a Commander card. I don't even know. Did it get banned? I don't think so. But either way, it's a kind of, you choose a player, and then it has protection from the chosen player, and it's in blue, and it's cheap, and it's a Merfolk. Lots of things you can do with this card, and it's like a big thing in Eternal format, so I think it's nice that it has the old border for those Eternal formats that have cards that were originally printed in this border, so I definitely like that. Next, we have Bonder. Obviously, by the way, all these cards are legal in Eternal formats, hence they're Eternal formats. I was just referring to the fact that, like, that card is so, it's only part of Eternal formats. Either way, Ponder, this is a card that definitely sees play, especially in things like Commander, and it, got banned out of, like, Modern. It's a blue sorcery, and it lets you kind of, it's just a 1-mana blue sorcery, so it's going to give you some, like, card filtering mixed with card draw. It was last reprinted in Secret Lair, but if you don't count that, it was last reprinted in Commander 2018, so it's nice to have it see a reprint, and again, this is one that sees a lot more play in Eternal formats, where it's like banned out of Modern, so like it's kind of being forced back in there, and so it's nice to see it in this frame as well. Next, we have Master of the Pearl Trident, which I feel like is one of the more niche cards here. It's a Merfolk Lord, and it definitely is a powerful card. I'm not trying to discount that in any way, but it's not something obviously you can throw in every blue deck. It is very clearly here for mono blue decks, and I'm sure people who like Merfolk and mono blue are going to like this, so that's always fun. And again, another one that's a little bit more expensive. So I don't know if they just like flipped a switch when spoiling, and they just went from let's do not necessarily needed reprints for cards and switch over to doing cards that are a little bit more expensive. I don't know. Kind of interesting. Next, we have Treasure Cruise. This one's not necessarily an expensive card, but again, it's one of those cards I think of when I think of Commander. It's an expensive spell that often isn't that expensive, which has a lot of value in decks like Yuriko in Commander, and just can do a lot of things. It can be a 1-cost, draw 3 cards, which Ancestral Recall is a crazy card, and this can be that, so I think it's definitely a very powerful card, and it definitely sees play, so I like seeing it in the border. I know, I keep saying that. I'm trying to find more things to say, but, like, that's just kind of what these all are. Next, we have Disdainful Stroke. It's an instant counter target spell with CMC 4 or greater. I hate this card. First off, in anything that's, like, has counterspell in it, obviously it's just a strictly worth counterspell, so you can kind of discount it outside of there, and it's just, as Magic gets faster and faster and more powerful creatures, especially at 3 mana, we have things like Uro, Oko, other mythic Simics Simic mythics that have 2 vowels in their name. I don't know, they're all sitting at 3 mana, and I feel like the fact that this can't counter it, it's just super, inconsistent. Also, a lot of the time that counter spell is meant to help save your creatures, and a lot of efficient removal is under CMC 4 or greater, so this is good to deal with board wipes. Just like in Commander, it's not great. In older formats where, spells that cost 4 or greater aren't played that often, it's not great. So it's definitely looking for more, like, recent decks, and I feel like, I'm not a huge fan of the border, especially if it's like the only one in my deck, so this is probably one of my least favorite inclusions. And it was last reprinted in Kaldheim, so definitely didn't need a reprint. Next, we have Trinket Mage. It's a creature that goes and tutors you up an artifact with CMC 1 or less, used in combo decks when you need artifacts with CMC 1 or less, or blink decks when you want to kind of go keep tutoring for your, Soul Ring and your mana ramp. But yeah, again, card that I definitely have heard of and is getting a new treatment with this set. Next, we have Baral, Chief of Compliance. They pre-printed, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting his name. Oh my gosh, I feel so dumb. Oh, it's like right on the tip of my tongue. The white version of this guy, like the cycle, the white card. He draws a card every time an aura, equipment, or vehicle enters the battlefield. I don't know why I can't think of his name. It is going to come to me after I finish filming this video. But either way, they printed him as well, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see the whole cycle. And he's actually a really expensive card. He's going for about $8 right now. Just very, very powerful. Next, we have Mystic Confluence, another very iconic spell in my opinion. That kind of feels old school Magic-y in some ways, and I just think it works really well as a card chosen for this. It's a card that definitely sees play, but isn't necessarily too expensive. Sitting at about $4 though, it is one of the more expensive ones of these, and it can just do a lot of stuff. So yeah, that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Spoilers are taking a little bit of a break as we head into the weekend. So as soon as those return, you can expect a video from me covering everything to help you guys stay up to date with everything. Either way, if you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe to stay up to date, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.